What's up everyone? Welcome to Investing with Adam. I'm your host Adam, and today we are going to cover 3 things that you can and should do when considering listing your home for sale that can potentially help you get more money and sell faster when trying to sell your home. Those 3 things are clutter, cleanliness, and lighting. As a real estate agent, I'm constantly in and out of homes, and I get to see all of these things on a daily basis. And what I seem to notice is almost every single one of these houses I'm in is an offender in one of these 3 categories that I'm mentioning to you. Either they just do a quick, simple clean, and a lot of the detail work gets missed, so it looks kind of dirty. It could be just a lot of clutter laying around. They decided not to empty the house out. The closets are overflowing. Or it could be the lighting is just not very nice for the space. It looks dark, it looks dingy. And all of these things, if they were actually completed beforehand, wouldn't have really cost those homeowners very much money and could have potentially put them way ahead of their competition, because as I mentioned, almost nobody focuses on these 3 simple things. And on that note, let's get started. The first point I want to mention to you is clutter. If you've lived in your home for a year or more, chances are you've adopted things in your life. You've bought things, you've started to fill all the closets and cupboards and extra corners that you don't really use in your house with all that extra stuff. You've been packing it in Tetris-like into those closets to make sure you can cram as much stuff in there as possible, because we all seem to get things given to us either from family or Christmases or things like that. And for some reason, all those things seem to stick around. Even sometimes you end up with boxes in your house 5 years down the road that were packed just like that when you moved in. And yes, it is your house, so you're more than welcome to do anything you want in that house, any way you please. But now that you're considering selling your home, the best thing you can do is to do all of the stuff that you can possibly do to appeal to any buyer that walks through your door that might be considering buying your home. And let's think about it from a buyer's perspective for a second. They walk in and they start looking through your home, and they open the cupboard doors and stuff starts spilling out. They go into the closets and they're overflowing. They can't even really see how big the closet is or how deep it is because there's stuff floor to ceiling. Or they go into the garage and that place is a tomb of old bicycles and tax receipts from 10 years ago. The first thing they're most likely going to think is, for one, this house does not have anywhere near enough storage for us, and 2, this house is a lot smaller than we thought it was, and we're going to need something a bit bigger because there's nowhere near enough room for our stuff. And if you look at it from the point of view of even just visible square footage, if you look at something like this bin, this thing's going to take up close to 3 square feet on its own of visible floor space that you can then market to your buyers. So if you had a bunch of these floating around in your house, in the closets, in the basement, all over the place, the garage, you could end up making your house that was maybe originally a 1,000 square foot bungalow look more like an 800 square foot bungalow or smaller, just because of some leftover stuff. The other issue I notice a lot on the topic of clutter is furniture clutter, and that is where people have 2 or 3 couches in a living room that's really only big enough for 1, or they have a queen size bed in a small bedroom with 3 dressers around it that make you feel like you have to turn sideways to walk into the bedroom. So that bedroom now all of a sudden looks extremely small, when if you just had the queen bed in there by itself, or maybe a double bed for guests, and no dressers or 1 small dresser, that room would feel probably twice as big. So here are a couple of tips that I can give you that can help you maximize the space in your home while still being able to live in it and function while your home's listed. The first thing is, I highly suggest going out and renting a storage unit. Some places you rent them from, they'll actually let you borrow the van if you sign up for a 2 or 3 month or whatever it is length of time to rent a storage unit. You can borrow their van to move your stuff into storage. And by doing this, it gets everything off-site completely, so you're not filling up the garage or filling up the basement with stuff from one closet to the next. And really, you're already just planning to pack all your stuff sooner and getting a jump start on the actual move, because you're getting your house sold, and by doing this, it'll help you get there a lot faster. The next point is, when you're looking at decluttering and limiting the stuff in your home, look at getting rid of everything that you're not going to need for the next 6 to 12 weeks. So that means if it's the middle of summer right now, then pack up and put away all that extra winter gear, the bulky coats, the boots, the hats, all the stuff that's just floating around in the closet that isn't gonna be needed for 6 months anyway. And on top of that, when you're going through the kitchen, all those little appliances that you don't really use very much, or those dishes that aren't often pulled out, or the Thanksgiving special plates, take all those, pack them up nice, and tuck them away in that storage unit so that those cupboards look nice and clean and empty, or at least limited in space. You have a couple things in there, but it looks like there's lots of space. Next, we're gonna talk about that furniture clutter. So what you wanna do at this point, now that you've gotten rid of the smaller stuff, the boxes, the packages, the closets, gotten those thinned out, emptied the dressers, now you can look at what kind of furniture you have in your home that you may not need to have in there. So if you have 3 dressers in one bedroom, maybe get rid of 2 of them or all 3 of them, and just strategically place stuff in the closet so it looks like it's used but not very much, makes it look bigger. And then in your living rooms or in your basements, if they're fully finished, look at the couches, the chairs, the furniture you have. If they're massive, or if there's 3 couches in one room, maybe get rid of the 2 of those 3 couches, and even maybe consider getting another chair or getting something else to kind of offset that, accent it, make it look a little more staged. And then the final point in this would be, if there's certain furniture like a massive ornate 12-seater dining room table that you can't do without, but it's just way too big for the space, it might be wise to consider taking it out, putting it in storage, and going and picking up a short-term table either from a furniture rental store or off Kijiji. Pick up a dining room table, maybe reuse the chairs, but have the table in there that's more fit to the space. And if you really wanted to, you might be able to offer it as an option for the buyers to purchase with the house. On to number 2, which is cleanliness. So now that you've removed all the clutter, all the extra furniture, all the extra stuff, you've probably uncovered some spots that you haven't seen for a while that could have some extra dirt laying around. Even if not, this point we're gonna go through and look at all the corners of the house. You're gonna look at the baseboards, the corners in the kitchen, maybe move the appliances around and get some of the dirt and stuff in there, because I mean, when you're cooking on the stove all the time, that little crevice between the stove and the counter that kind of seeps out a bit to the front of the stove, there's usually a lot of grime that builds up in there. And if you just do some polishing, clean that up, clean up the counters, get the tops of the cupboards, especially if you can see the tops of the cupboards when you come down the stairs, if you're in a 2-story, go through, get those all nice and cleaned up, get them nice and polished. Because let's face it, most of us generally do a spot cleaning. I know I have 2 kids, so we usually just clean up the counters where we need to, and we reserve the corners and the window wells or window frames kind of for later, maybe next month. We'll get to that another time. This is the time that you get to those things, because that deep clean can make the house look brighter, cleaner, and a lot more put together. And so when we do that, we're gonna be doing things like wiping down all the windowsills, taking all the stuff off the counters, off of everything, giving that a nice deep clean, cleaning out all the appliances, wiping down all the baseboards, going through each and every room, including the basement, and wiping down all the cobwebs, and then checking all the light fixtures to make sure there's no dirt built up inside, especially if they're more of like a round style. Get all that stuff cleaned out so that way everything around is super bright, super clean, and the baseboards don't just blend into the walls, and the bottoms of the baseboards don't blend into the flooring or the carpet. Everything is nice and clean and just shows fantastically. And always make sure you check out some of the, especially the highly used walls. Go through, take a look at them a few times from a few different angles, and give those a nice wash down as well. That'll help everything look nice and clean and fresh. And then once all that's done, all you gotta do is just work on maintaining it on a day-to-day while your home's listed, and hopefully not very long, because you did all this prep work in advance. Okay, now the house is cleared out, it's been cleaned so it sparkles and shines perfectly. Now we're gonna look at all the lighting in the home, because that is the final thing on our list today. The one thing that may actually cost a few bucks, but can definitely be well worth the investment put in. I can't stress this enough, that lighting can seriously alter the way your home is perceived when you walk in. It can take it from being a dark, closed off space to being a very bright, large, and open space, just by a few extra bulbs and maybe adding a lamp or 2 into some rooms that don't have very many fixtures. The first part of the lighting section is you're gonna wanna go around and check and see what fixtures might be missing bulbs, what fixtures might not even be working at all, and see where you need to add some bulb, because just the simple thing of having a blown out bulb can make a buyer come through and feel like, well, I can see that there's something missing here. This light fixture's got a missing bulb. So this is a really easy thing to maintain. So what kind of maintenance are we not seeing that's being missed? And they might be thinking that the house is poorly maintained, not taken care of well, which can hurt you when it comes time for them to write an offer. The next step after figuring out the light bulbs is to go and turn on all the lights, especially in one section of the house, so say the kitchen, living, dining room, and then step back and see to make sure that all the lights are actually the same color. There's different temperatures in light bulbs. You have soft white, warm white, cool white, daylight, all these different levels. They range all the way down from like 2700 Kelvin all the way up to like 8,000, which is more the blue side. So what you want to make sure of here is that your kitchen, dining, living, all the stuff that you can see in one eye shot is pretty much the exact same color so that it doesn't feel like a room is detached. Because if you're in the kitchen and it's a nice soft white, and then you look into the dining room and it's this really bright daylight, it's going to make those two areas of the house feel very disconnected and just kind of off. And so the goal here would be to maybe keep at least all the one floor. So if you're in a two-story, keep the main floor all the same color, or at least all the spaces that are together, keep them all looking like they're the same color so that it all feels like it matches properly. And really, for something as simple as swapping out a light bulb or swapping out a light fixture on a $200,000 or $500,000 or $700,000 home, that's not something that you want to leave to chance that you might lose a deal because of an 80 cent, 90 cent, even a $25 to a $200 light fixture in the grand scheme of a $200,000 or $700,000 house. And since you're paying such close attention at this point to the light fixtures, it'd be a good time to check and see if maybe one or two need to be switched out. They're starting to get a little beat up, a little rusty, a little run down. Maybe the track lights aren't staying up all the time. They're kind of sagging down and falling to the ceiling. It might be wise at this point to take them down, swap them out with some new ones, fresh bulbs, fresh lights, and then that way, especially in the bathrooms and kitchens, those are the main focal points for people. So if those fixtures look bang on, the room's clean, it's nice and fresh, it can really improve the way that house feels overall to any buyer that walks through. Bonus tip, now that you got your list, all your stuff together that you need to go pick up for your house, for the lighting, make sure to drop by online and check out Amazon.ca. That's where I get pretty much all of my lighting. All the lights in the studio here were all purchased from Amazon.ca. All the LED bulbs, everything that I picked up for it was easy, convenient online, and the pricing was fantastic. I compared it to Home Depot, I compared it to Walmart. At that time, you could not beat the pricing. You can get bulk packages, you can get all these different things, and most of the time you can get next day shipping. So for lamps, light bulbs, light fixtures, certain things, definitely highly recommend checking out Amazon.ca. So much so that I dropped a couple links in the description for this video to take you straight to the bulbs, lamps, and stuff you're gonna need to make your lighting fantastic in your house. To add to that as well, make sure when you are replacing the bulbs, pick up LED lights. That way, for one, you can advertise that your property is nice and modern with all LED lights throughout. And number two with that is a 60-watt bulb in a traditional bulb. Compare that to an LED 100-watt bulb, which only takes up 14 watts. You can add more power per fixture safely to get more light, and it takes a lot less power. So in closing with this section, make sure you check out Amazon.ca, even if you just want to compare what the pricing is. But I can almost guarantee that once you check it out, you're gonna have a hard time stopping because their prices are extremely hard to beat. And there we have it. 3 fairly simple and fairly easy things to do that don't cost a ridiculous amount of money, that can help you get the highest amount of money and get sold in the shortest amount of time on market to beat everyone else in your neighborhood and have great success in selling your home. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and click that notification bell so you know every time we drop a new video. And feel free to share this with anyone else you know that might be thinking about selling their home anytime soon. And of course, if you have any other questions, any direct questions, or want me to elaborate more on anything in this video or any other videos, feel free to reach out to me directly anytime. I'm happy to help. That's it for me. Hope you're having a great day, and I will catch you on the next one.